We got the next fight up, and it's the featured bout of the evening. We got 14 fights to break down, so never a moment to spare. We got Raul Rosas Jr., El Nino Problema, just like our guy Jake Paul, right? He's the problem child. Then you got Ricky Turcios on the other side here. And Pretty Ricky is coming into this fight with a little bit more professional experience, 12-3 as a professional, fighting out of Houston, Texas. However, he's 31 years of age. He's taking on a 19-year-old, one of the youngest guys on this UFC roster in Raul Rosas Jr. This is a rebooked fight, guys. If you have been around, you know Raul was booked for this fight. He was supposed to fight this guy. They're supposed to get in there. They got so close. And then the fight gets canceled the day of. He's sick. He's unable to make the walk. I believe that was in Mexico, if my memory serves. And the one thing you got to consider is at elevation in Mexico, could get altitude sickness, could get a lot of different things that go wrong for you, right? Now he's taking this fight in Louisville, Kentucky. Big difference, right? So I think we're going to see a spot where Raul Rosas Jr., he's known for his grappling. He's known for his ability to go out there, put on a pace, wrestle in the early going. I think if people have concerns about Raul, it's mostly based on cardio. It's mostly based on conditioning. Is he able to keep it up over the course of 15 minutes? And if he's not able to get the takedowns, if he's not able to get his grappling going, what does his game look like on the feet in extended minutes? We haven't seen as much of it. It hasn't looked as refined. It's looked a little sloppier. When I think about a guy like Raul Rosas Jr., I think to myself, number one, he's aggressive, he's intense, he comes out hot to start his fights. He's trying to get people out of there, whether that's Terrence Mitchell, that he's barnstorming with strikes, or whether that's Jay Perrin, that he's trying to hop on his back early. If you look at the Christian Rodriguez fight, the reason I thought Isaac Bulgarian was going to have some success in that fight and win the first round at a high clip is because we've seen Raul Rosas Jr. go out there and dominate him in the first round. And that's a good fighter. That's a solid guy. That's a very talented guy. And that's a guy who's also young, physical, in very good shape, and willing to kind of go through that hell, right? That's defined his career. Christian Rodriguez is willing to lose one round to beat you 2 rounds in a row. He's not afraid to get tired. He's not afraid to go deep. He's not afraid to go 15 hard minutes. And that's an important quality, right? He gets better as the fight gets longer. And you look at a guy like Raul Rosas Jr., he's young. He doesn't know how to manage a 15-minute fight. He doesn't know how to deal with a guy who can actually stick in there, right? And I think that was what we saw there. We saw a kid who was young, who was aggressive, came out there like a house on fire, and he slowed down over the course of the fight. I think that now that opens up the knowledge to him. Hey, I got to go out there and pace myself. Hey, I got to use these positions to my advantage, not just search for the finish, but try and make my opponent more tired than I'm getting and manage my energy. And I think that a guy like Raul Rosas Jr., he's got many opportunities to win this fight. I like Ricky Turcios, but I think Ricky Turcios has been exploitable at certain points in his career. And when you look through his record, he's got 3 losses on his professional record. Let's examine each of them one by one. He had the loss to Ayman Zahabi. I bet Ayman Zahabi plus 170 for 3 units. And the line kept moving against me. Everybody kept betting Ricky Turcios even more. And I ended up, I think, with 4 units on Ayman Zahabi between the numbers plus 170 and plus 200. And when you look at that, right, I think it was a great bet in hindsight, right? It was an ugly fight. It was a weird fight. But you had one guy in Ricky Turcios who was making a lot of noise and doing a bunch of moving and landing just about nothing, right? I felt like the simple way to understand that fight is that Ayman Zahabi drew a line in the sand and said, you're not going to cross this line without getting hit hard. I'm going to hit you with something that's a calculated counter. I'm going to get you with a shot with my hooks. I'm going to find a low kick. I'm going to really punish you if you try and get into this range. And Ricky basically just decided, okay, I'm going to do, cardio kickboxing from the outside and just not try and land real committed strikes. And so I thought Ricky did more theatrics and, showboating and kind of, acting the fool than he did trying to fight there. And I don't mean that to be disrespectful. I like Ricky. I think he's a fun guy, but just trying to call it like I see it, right? I'm trying to analyze the fights and be objective as well. So I'm not a Ricky Turcios hater by any means, but I am definitely an Ayman Zahabi enjoyer. And so I was willing to go out there, risk the coins, fade the market there. And when he was a big favorite, he dropped the ball in that fight. Then next time out, he goes out against Kevin Natividad. Guys, I'll just be frank. I don't think Kevin Natividad is a great fighter. I think he's a very average guy. I think he was hard done by the fact Miles Johns cheated, grabbed his glove, and knocked him out. But Danaa Bakary, who's had a pretty middling UFC career since, was able to put him down in the first round. Ricky Turcios fights him to a split decision, right? So I'm not blown away by that list of wins. Right? Beating Kevin Natividad, beating Brady Hiestand. I bet Brady Hiestand in that fight, guys. That was another split decision. This is back in the day. And I thought Brady Hiestand was going to out-wrestle him, out-grapple him. Kind of what happened, but Brady Hiestand just wasn't as good as I thought he was, right? He came in very young in that fight. But he basically pushed a pace, got in his face, took him down, but he wore some damage. He wasn't able to push for the full 15 minutes, kind of slowed down in that one. But I honestly think that Brady Hiestand is just a very average guy. And no disrespect there either. It's just like, I don't think he's shown us a lot, right? If you go look over at Brady Hiestand's record, at the time he had 6 professional fights and he fought him to a split decision. Since then, Brady Hiestand beat Danaa Bakary and Fernie Garcia via unanimous decision. So he's put together a 2-1 record now in the UFC. I'm not saying he's a slouch by any means. He's a fine fighter, but he's young, right? And then you look back, Boston Salmon on the Contender Series beats him via unanimous decision back in 2017. Manny Martinez knocked this guy out in the very first round. Manny Martinez kind of struggled at the UFC level as well. So I look at a guy like Pretty Ricky Turcios and say to myself, this guy is fun. He's a cool guy. He's a great personality. I hope he keeps getting booked on these cards. He's a fun guy. I think this is a clear setup fight. I think they want to see Raul do well. I think that's the reason why they've waited to rebook Ricky for this fight. And I kind of think it comes down to what Raul wants to have happen here. If he wants to go out there and show, hey, I got 15 minutes of cardio. I could go push the pace. I'm not afraid to get down. Okay, then I think that's what we're going to see. I think that if he decides, hey, I'm going to go out there and barnstorm this guy and try and knock his head off for the first 5 minutes, I think he might be able to do that, honestly. Even like he might treat him like Terrence Mitchell. And I think Ricky is a much better fighter than Terrence Mitchell. But I just think Raul, if he comes out with that same level of intensity, might treat him accordingly. And then alternatively, I think that there's a world in which Raul is just able to take him down and submit him, right? When you look at a guy like Raul, he's getting to these dominant positions on C-Rod. He's not able to put the closing, finishing touches on it. He's still just 19 years of age. And so I assume that he's getting better every day in the gym, working with good guys. And I feel like in this spot, what is to stop him from, just wrapping up a rear naked choke over the chin and seeing whether Ricky Turcios is willing to deal with that or not. You could put him in some danger. So for me, it's just a spot where I would prefer to be on the Raul props here or pass. I just don't believe in Ricky's upside. If I was to be on Ricky, I would probably be on the late round prop. Shout out to my guy, Aussie fan in the chat. Says he's got Ricky round 3, 26-1. No sweat there. We wish you the best always. Shout out to my guy, Hefe Hammer. Says, I'd have Liam by round 2 sub over Raul Rosas. I don't know, brother. He's a little bit smaller, but I don't know. I think I'd have a very hard time there. Liam, any value betting the RNC prop specifically in this spot? I feel like it's his main winning condition, or does the general sub prop have enough value at plus 200? Personally, brother, if you're asking my opinion, I would just scrap the sub prop entirely. I'd go ITD if I like that side. When I'm looking at the reason why, I believe the ITD is around plus 150, 50 cents to not get screwed like he did against Terrence Mitchell. Like that for me, that's a idea. So yeah, that's the way I'd see this one. Probably just lean towards the ITD or the upside on the knockout personally. But it would really just depend on the odds, Dixon, on the specific sub. But oftentimes the specific sub prop is not worth it in terms of the EV. That's my personal opinion. Unless the guy only knows one submission. And I do think that Raul Rosas Jr. could guillotine, could do a couple different things as well.